Okay, first of all, thanks for coming out. And, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't start first and foremost by thanking the best fan base in the country. And I think that was evidence today. You have a practice, and the crowd, the way they came out, it was a game day-like atmosphere. And I thought there was some great teacher lessons for our football team. And a lot of those guys walking down that tunnel out on the field and hearing the band playing and the excitement, that's the first time they've experienced that. And so, I thought that was a great atmosphere to really develop this football team. The elements, I thought that was good that we had some rain the way it's rained here the last couple months. You can't put a value on being able to practice in the rain. To throw wet footballs, to catch wet footballs, to have to play sometimes on a slippery surface and have your base underneath you. And we try to manufacture throwing wet footballs in practice, but it doesn't beat the real thing. So I thought it was an extremely productive night. I'll know a little bit more if I go back tonight and watch the film. We got some great situational football in, some last-second field goals. Those are hard to manufacture in practice, and so to be able to have those type of situations and be able to do that. So again, I want to thank our fan base for coming out, supporting us. And, if anybody doesn't realize the magnitude by which Tennessee football is, all you had to be here tonight and see it. And it's a responsibility of this football team, this coaching staff, all the people that are associated with our football program to give their all each and every day, and I mean that. So thank you, and I'll answer any questions you may have.
Butch, how much did you want your guys to see the room that they need to improve in a setting like this?
Well, I think that's the big thing, is being able to practice in this type of environment. 2 weeks from today, it's real. And like I told our football team, 2 weeks from today, there are no do-overs. There are no rewind buttons or reset buttons. So to be able to go back and, have the pulse go up and have some pressure situations and have to perform, in front of a crowd, I thought it was great, especially when we're playing some young players like we are this year.
You had said at the start of training camp, this kind of arose from a conversation with Peyton to do this, that he had mentioned that you got preseason games in the NFL. At that point, did he suggest this, or did you come up with the idea if we had this open practice?
He suggested it, and we spoke about it and talked about some situations we would do, and then, we planned everything out as a staff of what this football team needed. We needed to play football, we needed a 1-minute drill, we needed some last-second clock management type situations, we needed to get some of our younger kids some reps, and also I wanted to have some practice, and there's nothing like having your name called out on a loudspeaker and having to perform one-on-one, you against the other guy. And so again, I thought it was extremely productive.
Butch, a handful of practices left before game week and game preparations. How much tonight goes into kind of measuring a depth chart, just seeing who guys are really going to start playing with the preparations for Austin Peay starting soon?
Well, there's a lot that goes into it. And some of the individuals, they have to play regardless. That's the situation that we're in right now in our program. So, it's giving them those valuable game live repetitions. That game-like experience was big. And the big thing is our special teams as well. Is who's going to be our contributors on special teams. So this is one of the many evaluation tools, but this is a big evaluation tool. And we'll really go through this video, and we're going to start working on it right now when I go back.
Did you feel like the players really stepped up and like that competition factor when you called out so many guys in one-on-one?
They should. That's what it's about. We talk about competitive spirit, and you either live it, love it, or like it. And that's football. And that's the greatest thing. It's a team sport, but there's also one-on-one individual battles, and we talk about working to dominate your opponent. And it's a wearing out process. So yeah, they should have, if they're competitors, what is there not to get excited about?
Well, a lot that you do is with recruiting in mind. You guys announced nearly 40,000 people. What kind of message from a recruiting standpoint do you think you sent about Tennessee football tonight?
I think it speaks volumes. If you're a prospective student athlete and you hold an open practice and you have almost 40,000 people attending, and then an opportunity to come in and play, it's the magnitude of Tennessee football. And I told our players this, and I mean it, is everyone has a responsibility to get this program back to where it belongs. We're working towards that each and every day, but I think it speaks volumes.
How do you think the receivers handled tonight from the stage to the rain? How do you think they?
Still young, still sloppy, some missed assignments, which can't have. There's got to be a sense of urgency the next 2 weeks. We're not game ready yet. But again, we have 2 weeks to continue to prepare, and it's all about individual improvement. We had too many mental errors, and to perform at a high level, you can't have those. And so again, we'll go back, we'll roll our sleeves up, we'll watch the film, and they learned a lot tonight. Everything was sped up. Everything was accelerated with the fans in the stands, the atmosphere, the band playing, the music. It was kind of chaotic, which we like it. So, I thought it was probably the most valuable teach tool we've had to date.
Coach, just on the first look, it was like the first team off the line, it was blowing some running lanes open. Were they, having as good of a night as it kind of looked in that department?
Well, I'll know more when I watch the film, but we expect a high level of consistency from them. And I was disappointed a couple times with our defensive front and our front seven, especially in the red zone scrimmage. One of our things in the plan to win is make your opponents kick field goals in the red zone. And we have to understand that. And I'll know a little bit more. I didn't think we did a good job defensively with our gap integrity. We had some exposed gaps, and those occur in fire zones, and that occurs in not winning your one-on-one battle. And to play great defense, you got to maintain your gap. You have to maintain your responsibilities, and you can't have lost leverage plays. A couple times we let the ball outside the framework of the defense, and you can't do that. And we had a couple missed tackles, and that lends itself to big plays.
Butch Justin said you felt like you had a good night tonight. Can you talk about him and then all your quarterbacks, just kind of as you watch them under the lights, what you took from their play without seeing the tape?
Without seeing the tape, my first impression, I was very encouraged. I thought we made some plays, but we still need to make the routine plays. And we have somebody open in the secondary. On a deep ball, that's the difference between winning and losing. A great teach point. We have a great third down conversion, and our receiver doesn't line up on the line of scrimmage. He has a missed assignment, in the formation. And those are great teaching tools. And that's why you practice. That's why you put your team in those type of situations so you can correct those, because that could have been a catastrophic mistake if we were playing the game for real. And we'll get it corrected. I can promise you that. But, all those tools are valuable, but I just think the overall routine consistency, we have to continue to work and do better.
Dobbs drew some oohs and ahs with the juke on Tino Thomas. How much of that have you seen from him in terms of like open field?
Yeah. We've seen that. Josh has the ability to make some plays with his legs. And that's why at times, we make our quarterbacks live, because you really can't see that creativeness, the ability to make a play, the ability to play in space, when they're not live. So that's why we make them live at times, to be able to see how can they create, how can they get us out of problems, and then how do they take care of the football, when the pocket collapses, do they make good decisions with the football?
What were your initial impressions of the secondary play?
I'll know a little bit more, and it's hard to gauge because, you're rotating, you're going ones and twos and threes in so many different groups. I thought for the most part, our first secondary made some plays. We still had too many missed tackles, especially in the red zone, which I just spoke about. But I'll know a little bit more when I watch the film. The big thing is overall depth. Where are we at? And I'll know a little bit more when I watch the film.
Butch, you've said a couple times, teaching points. You've not had a scrimmage this preseason where you just play. Everything's kind of in situation. Is that normal, or is this team different from
No.
what they need to learn situation?
Every team I've ever coached, every coach I talk to, they scrimmage like we scrimmage. We put the ball in the minus 35, 38, we drive the length of the field. We go coming out, we do red zone, we try to manufacture everything. As a coach, you're trying to put your team in every situation possible. So when the game day experience comes, they prepared everything. Would I have liked to maybe drive the ball a little bit more? Yeah, you're right. But, also, we don't have much depth. So we have to be very smart in how we manage, our football team. So it's a little bit of give and take. I would have loved to have a 150-play scrimmage and just play ball. But right now, where we're at in the program, we don't have that luxury. Will we have that luxury? Yes, that's why we're recruiting. But right now, we don't have that. So that's why every rep is critical. Every rep is a valued rep.
Have you been told anything about Dylan Wiseman?
No, I'll know a little bit more later tonight and into tomorrow.
Just like, or
Yeah.
the mindset of having those two quarterbacks go live tonight?
Just like we spoke about, trying to see, first of all, the blood pressure goes up when you know you're live in the pocket, but to see what type of decisions they make with the football. You know, they're the manager of the offense. They're the manager of taking care of that ball. And, you know, then when the pocket collapses, their pocket instincts, you know, a lot of instincts take over. And I thought both of them did a great job in terms of their pocket presence. I've said it, is both individuals show a poise that young quarterbacks don't possess. And they possess that, and that's been great to see.
Are you pleased with the progress of the decision-making for Peterman so far?
I have. You know, I thought there was a couple times it was 3rd and long and there wasn't anywhere to go. And he threw the football away. He got what he could get, and then he threw the ball away. And sometimes punt's the best play because it's the only play, and you're playing field position. So I did think that he did a great job in terms of managing the offense, understanding the situation, and moving on.
Coach, how much audible freedom are you giving the guys in practices right now? Will it just depend on how they progress?
Exactly right. You know, the more that they can grasp, the more that they can handle, the more freedom in terms of not actually calling the play, but run checks, pass checks, run pass check. You know, some of our candidate plays that you hear a lot in the NFL that they talk about. So the more experience they gain, the more that they can prove they can do that, we'll give them more. Right now, we just want them focusing on making good decisions with the football and running the offense and managing the offense.
A couple guys that were in green, haven't been in green jerseys, Marlon Lane, Kirk, and Jed, didn't seem like they did much of the team stuff. Is that just picking your spots?
Precautionary, yep. They've had, you know, pretty good week of practice of getting back. And, you know, just like Rajon Neal had some good quality reps, and then, you know, it was an opportunity for some other backs to prove what they can do.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you for coming.